Transition to the Gridiron Dukes. Obviously, the Vikings had their first preseason game against the Denver Broncos. Basically started entirely of backups. They still got throttled. But at the same time, rosters being trimmed down here slowly getting to 53. Justin Jefferson was back at practice. What Viking scoops do you have in your bag here as training camp still charges on?
Yeah, I was out there on Monday, Declan. Justin Jefferson looked really good. I was standing right at the door that leads out to the practice field. You know, he came out, he ran out, he declared, he shouted, "I'm back." And just watching him, yeah, I mean, you would have never realized he missed whatever it was, 7, 8, 9, 10 days. You know, he's fine. You know, in terms of fantasy football, if you valued Justin Jefferson tremendously 2 weeks ago, have that same value heading into your drafts here in the next couple weeks. He looked really good on Monday. I've been asked a lot, Declan. I guess some random Twitter feed, I don't know if they're verified or not, but there's not a name attached to it, but they've got thousands of followers, tweeted out that the Vikings have interest in Pittsburgh wide receiver James Washington. I'm told no. Now, maybe that changes, but like in live time, Declan, as of Monday afternoon, I texted with somebody in the know. I was told, quote, BS. Like, there's nothing going on there. You know, the Vikings sat out Chad Beebe in the preseason game over the weekend. Is that a sign that Beebe is a lock for the 53-man roster? They certainly like him. D.D. Westbrook, I left after about 45 minutes yesterday, but he was out there in pads, you know, running routes, you know, more so on an individual, you know, drill basis. But, you know, he's making a little bit of progress. They could always put him on IR too with the new IR rules where you'd only miss 3 games. So that's always a possibility with D.D. less than a year removed from ACL surgery. But they have Beebe, you know, D.D. at some point they feel like will help them. If it's not week 1, maybe it's as soon as week 4. They like the Iowa rookie Smith Marset. So, yeah, I mean, they missed B.C. Johnson. But, like, at this point, and, you know, Blake Prohl was having a good camp. That's a super unfortunate injury. But, like, at this point, Declan, I don't see them trading for James Washington. Maybe on August 31st, maybe they end up acquiring a different wide receiver. Like, I'm not ruling out any possibility. But at this point, there is zero James Washington steam.
Dukes, let me throw in one more piece of reckless speculation on you for Vikings related.
Reckless speculation.
After watching what happened in the preseason game and just, I mean, you could make a case, Dukes, this offensive line on paper is worse than it was in 2020. We'll figure out. We'll figure out as the season goes on. We can't really jump to those conclusions. But I'm just shocked that with the lack of depth at guard, that you don't just at least pick up the phone or even with tackles and look at someone maybe like Russell Okung, who is still out there. I know Mitchell Schwartz, who is banged up and probably won't even be ready to start the season. He's still out there. Is there any possibility with the Vikings still having about $11-12 million in cap space that they could still pick up the phone and maybe bring someone in, even just for depth-wise, as training camp marches on?
Well, I mean, maybe, Declan, I can tell you specifically on Russell Okung, as of Saturday, no inquiries, nothing going on there. I agree. Like, you can make a case Riley Reif was their best offensive lineman last year. Some might say it was Brian O'Neill. If it's Reif, then O'Neill was the second best. You feel good about the right tackle spot. Brian O'Neill eventually here is going to get paid. I still see a contract extension being worked out, but you're worse off at left tackle. Ezra Cleveland moves from right guard to left guard, yet he's a tackle by trade. I don't think he would ever admit it on the record, but at some point, maybe it's when he's an ex-Viking, I think the story will come out that, you know, like, he looks at himself as a tackle. Not that he's, like, pissed off. I mean, you want to play. And so if you can contribute, get on the field, fine. It's not like, you know, he's throwing a tantrum or anything crazy, but he views himself as a tackle. Yet you've got him at left guard. Garrett Bradbury at this point, first-round pick, he hadn't lived up to first-round pick potential. Right? He's been underwhelming, but he's really your only center. Then at right guard, Oli Udoh having a good camp. But yeah, like, you go across the line, like, who inspires you? It's the right tackle. That's about it. Right? Von Miller, very complimentary last week of Brian O'Neill. You feel good. You feel really good about Brian O'Neill. And this organization, Declan, they've invested the resources in the offensive line. When you think about O'Neal, second-round pick, and Wyatt Davis, third-round pick, Bradbury, first-round pick, Ezra Cleveland, second-round pick, Christian Darrisaw, first-round pick. Like, they've used really good draft capital on O-linemen. They just really haven't hit on elite offensive linemen. I did see Christian Darrisaw practice on Monday. Me and others had the steam late last week that this next surgery he had, this second surgery, same doctor, Dr. Myers in Philadelphia, that there is optimism that he's not going to be sidelined long. But at this point, we're sitting here on August 17th, all the practice time he has missed. Like, how the heck could Christian Darrisaw play week 1 in Cincinnati, right? Like, it's Rashad Hill. Rashad Hill is going to be this team's starting left tackle. I'm not suggesting he'll be this team's starting left tackle week 7 or week 9, but week 1, Rashad Hill is the starting left tackle. I mean, they sat him out on Saturday. So that's another disappointment, right, Declan? When the Vikings left TCO Performance Center in late April, late that Thursday night, after they had landed Christian Darrisaw, they walked out of there thinking to themselves, we have our week 1 starting left tackle. So the situation we're in now, it's disappointing.
Dukes, any more talks and improvements on Brian O'Neal or Harrison Smith possibly inching more towards extension since we've talked last week?
Yeah, no specific updates. I still feel really confident about the O'Neal deal happening. And if I had to bet, I think a Smith extension eventually gets done, but I feel better about the O'Neal situation, that I do foresee a deal eventually happening. Maybe they announce it, the eve of the opener. Maybe we find out on Saturday, September 11th. Maybe it's a little bit earlier than that. But yeah, I think that deal does get done.
Dukes, at the top of the show, I brought up Charlie Barnes starting for the Twins. The Twins, finally, it just took till mid-August for them to start beating first-place clubs. They beat up on the Rays. They beat up on the Sox. They've beat up on the Astros. And now all of a sudden, the Twins look like they're finally starting to win some games here and looking competent. And rotation's filling out. Things are hitting. Jorge Polanco's been Mr. Clutch for them. He's already has 4 walk-off hits so far. What have you seen from the Twins here, and what have you really liked from them in this last month of play where they've been playing a lot better baseball?
How about Alexander Colomé with an ERA below 3 since May 1st? You can legitimately have the conversation. It's a mutual option. I forget the exact number. It's short of $6 million. There's a mutual option for Colomé for the Twins in 2022. You can make a case that the Twins should exercise their portion of that mutual option. That Colomé has been so good since May 1st that you want Colomé in next year's bullpen. Jorge Polanco, the Twins, and I get it, like the Miguel Sano contract and some other contracts they've given out. You're like, what were they doing? The Jorge Polanco extension, as team-friendly as it gets, like that's one of the best contracts in the American League. It was a 5-year, $25 million deal. Jorge Polanco is back to the Polanco we saw in 2019. He doesn't do a whole lot of interviews. I did have Jorge on a Scoop podcast, shameless plug. It was like November or December. Now his agent helped translate, but I had him for like 20, 25 minutes. And he was open about just how much the ankle bothered him last year. So he undergoes a procedure. The ankle is now back to 100%. Like, I think he's going to win a Gold Glove at some point if they want to keep him at second base. I'm also okay with moving him back to shortstop this winter and just making Louis Arise my everyday second baseman. Even if the idea heading into this year was to give Arise 500 to 600 at-bats, move him around, I would like Arise not only to have all those at-bats, but just keep him at one permanent spot. And so I'm open to that idea. And I see all the great free agent shortstops out there. If the Twins want to spend some money on Carlos Correa or Corey Seager or Trevor Story or Javi Baez, but I'm okay just moving Polanco back to shortstop. I don't think he's a negative defensively at shortstop. But if you really like him at second base, if you feel like, he's going to win a Gold Glove at second base, fine. So be it. But yeah, what is it now, Declan? 26 and 25 in their last 51 games?
Yeah, they're playing good.
I mean, it helps. It helps when you're able to play loosey-goosey. The pressure isn't on. But, I mean, there's been other positives. I mean, Polanco's been their MVP. But you think about Bailey Ober. You think about Griffin Jacks, double-digit strikeouts a couple starts ago against the White Sox. So I think there's something there.
Yeah.
You think about in the minors, the way Jose Miranda continues to rake for the St. Paul Saints. It's when, not if. He's up with the Twins. So, yeah, I mean, there's glimmers of hope. The one thing I'll say, though, I got into this discussion on Sunday night on Channel 5. Of the 5 main male, let me stress, male pro sports teams here in the Twin Cities, Declan, who is the furthest from winning a championship? Now, the easy answer, I think, for most is it's the Timberwolves. Yeah, you're excited about Pat Beverly, the potential of some other moves. But of the 5, you would say the Timberwolves are the furthest away from winning a championship. I will not argue that point. I would argue, though, that I don't think there's a sizable difference between the 4-spot Minnesota Twins and the 5-spot Timberwolves. I can even make a case that the Twins are in the 5 spot. When looking at the landscape of the American League, specifically the Central Division, for the next few years, the White Sox are not slowing down. So, yeah, I get it, but I love Austin Martin. I think the Woods Richardson kid has a chance. I've heard a lot of good things. I talked to Rick Knapp, the Durham Bulls pitching coach, used to be the Twins' roving minor league pitching instructor. So he's got a lot of friends here in the Twins organization. And he was the Tigers' major league pitching coach under Jimmy Leland a few years ago. Rick Knapp's been around the game forever. I picked his brain a couple Scoop podcasts ago about Joe Ryan, about Drew Strotman, the 2 pitchers the Twins got for Nelson Cruz. He was incredibly complimentary. Like, sometimes I can read between the lines. You're on the record. The guy's not going to rip, 2 of his guys. But, like, he was getting borderline emotional talking about losing those 2 guys, in particular Ryan. So, like, I think the Twins won that trade. So, like, I can look at their farm system and say, yeah, like, I get it, be positive. Now, Baseball America comes out in the last 24 hours and ranks the Twins farm system as 16th in baseball. I would have guessed higher. Yeah. But, Kirilloff graduates from that list. Larnach, who's been struggling, so now he's back at AAA, so maybe Larnach needs to go back on the list. But Larnach had graduated from that list. And you look at the American League Central, the Tigers and the Royals both have excellent farm systems. They're not that far away. So if I feel like the White Sox are going to be really good for the next couple of years, then at that point, the Tigers and the Royals jump up. A.J. Hinch is an unreal leader. What a hire by the Detroit Tigers. So that's why, even though I'm offering reasons for optimism, 26 and 25 in the last 51, and laying out, some positives with the Twins, long-term, I think there's a lot of work to do.
Yes. Yeah, I think I'm looking at 2022, Dukes, and look, we had Jake DePew on yesterday. We were talking about it. In 2016 to 17, they made the jump. They went from the worst record in baseball, surprised a lot of guys, and made it to a wild card game. Next year, the only real path I can see that is if Ober, Joe Ryan, obviously even like Charlie Barnes, or also they hit some savvy Kenta Maeda-like trade where someone comes in here we weren't expecting and he competes for the Cy Young. Those are all the 100th percentile outcomes. And I think that's a lot of pressure for that to happen. I think they're going to be a fun team a better team on paper, and they should be more fun and enjoyable to watch next season. But it's 2023 at least for me. Until they're a lot competitive. I was texting with our mutual friend Sean Aronson yesterday, and I know Joe Ryan will make his debut with the Saints on Friday. So if fans are looking to get their first look at him in St. Paul after a pretty dominating stretch in the Olympics for Team USA, Friday is going to be the start to go out and see Joe Ryan. I'm trying to get out there and see him either as a fan or even as the vaunted Sean Aronson press box, as it's so dubbed at CHS Field. But I agree with you, man. I think it's probably 2022 or 2023 at the very least before this team is competitive. This Central Division just isn't slowing down.
That's it. Now, Friday, you may also see Byron Buxton in the Saints lineup. You'll see Trevor Larnach in the Saints lineup. My older son, Drugi, is going to the game tomorrow night, so I know he's pumped up about that. Sean's my guy. Remember, I used to help broadcast Saints games 09 and 10. So, Sean is A+. Sean Aronson, as underrated as it gets in this market. He does phenomenal work with his podcast, broadcasting Saints games. I'm grateful that we, Hubbard Broadcasting, televise the Sunday home games. Yeah. So like this Sunday's game will be on Channel 45. They've had some games there on Fox 9 Plus. They've had some games there on Bally Sports North. So yeah, that's great. But yeah, like I don't see the path next year. So yeah, we're talking 2023 at the earliest. Yeah. Now I'll give Twins fans another reason for optimism. At this point, I think there's a better chance than not that the Twins actually find a way to extend Byron Buxton. That I think Buxton's going to be here for a while longer. The more I hear, Declan, the two sides were close enough. I don't know why Byron would settle for $80 million guaranteed. Still think the Twins are going to have to go up from that. But the two sides are not so far apart that I don't think they can come together in the winter and find a happy medium. So I think, Buck can stay here, be locked in. Can Max Kepler regain the form he had in 2019? That remains to be seen. This regime, now it remains to be seen if the Rockies still have some interest in Thad Levine as the Rockies look to hire a president of baseball operations. And I know Thad's family loves it here, living in Edina. So, Thad might be fine here, but if the Rockies make him a handsome offer, will he consider it? The Phillies wanted him last winter. He turned them down. But whether Thad's here or not, with Derek Falvey running things, you mentioned it, they made a sizable jump. What was it, 2016 to 2017 with Falvey in charge. Then they made a sizable jump, 18 to 19. So they've gone up multiple times, under Falvey's watch. They've jumped up the next year over 20 wins. So it's possible. So they may end up finishing this year with 74 wins, 73 wins, somewhere in that ballpark. So if they jump up 17, 18 wins, you're over 90. You're probably at least minimum, the second wild card. So it's been done under this group's leadership where they've made a nice jump. One bad year, then the next year is a good year. But I need to see a lot of moves for me to get on that particular bandwagon.
Dukes, as we wrap here, any Gopher scoops from the football team or basketball team, and anything else you want to get out of your chest here before we talk again on Thursday?
Yeah, well, I know PJ Fleck went on the record after practice. We had a presence there. Our photojournalist, Jeff Briaschi, was there. He passed along post-practice that Fleck said that there's, quote, a legitimate chance that Chris Autman-Bell is back for the opener, the game against Ohio State. Now, I'm led to believe it's not a knee injury, that it's more likely an ankle injury, certainly a lower body injury. We've not been told specifically it's an ankle injury, but I'm pretty sure it's not a knee injury. And we still have a couple weeks to go. He'll be getting nonstop treatment for the most part. So we have, 16 days to go. So a lot can change between now and 16 days from now. But as I sit here on August 17th, I don't know if I agree with PJ. I wonder if there's some gamesmanship there, Declan, where you're trying to convince Ohio State, Autman-Bell's going to play. Go ahead and game plan for him. Think he's going to play. Then come game day, he's not out there. So, like any injury, pretty darn fluid this far out from a game, But I don't know if I necessarily, just based on what I've been told, if I'm all in on buying what PJ Fleck is saying about, quote, legitimate chance he plays against Ohio State. Maybe he does end up playing against Ohio State, but I don't know if I can buy that. It goes back to last year, Mike Zimmer, Danielle Hunter tweak. Coaches lie to us, and more often than not, when they do lie, it's usually injury related. Journalism 101, why is this person lying to me? Read between those lines. You want Ohio State to think Autman-Bell is playing. So I get why PJ Fleck would say those sorts of things. I'm not upset, but I can't treat every word he says or any football coach, what they say, as complete gospel.
All right, Dukes. We'll talk next Thursday, man. Thanks for coming on today.
Easy, Declan. Good job.
Appreciate it.